Okay, I'm starting the recording. Good things will happen. Let us start the timer properly. There we go. So, we're gonna be going through some wonderful character creation stuff and backgrounds and justifying why you want the glorious things you want. And yeah, I will allow you to take... well, I'm gonna be making this as I go along based on what feels right and how things are coming together, of course, as per the usual, but I will be allowing you to take secondary skills in the things that you are most specialized in, or that you have done the most based on your backstories, rather. So, for example, Demi might get a secondary skill in actually composing his songs and tales based on his concept. I don't know, Epic, depending on how you want to go with it, you might have a specialty in something like getting people to work together, establishing bonds and community, or you might get the ability to find out information. Something that fits with you, generally being a likable sort. Dracula might get something to, you know, do with designing magical shit, because that's apparently his whole fucking concept. And, well, you get the idea. And you can also take weird backgrounds, and that includes certainly clan status, Malkavian time, etc, etc, etc. And I will be handing out a couple of extra background points, like 2 or 3, just arbitrarily based on what I think you would have gotten based on your backstories as an extra bonus. So, for example, if Demi is a very traditionally minded gangrel, he might get some free points of clan status. That, you know, what with him being a fucking battle bard and all. Dracula, if he's focused on magic, he might get a mixture of clan status and extra cult library. Something like that.
Cool.
Based on whatever fits the most with your backstory, essentially. So, yeah. And, I guess we need to pick someone to start with. And I think here we need to start with whoever is the most experienced so the others can watch how it should be done. So I guess we're gonna start with Epic.
Okay. So far what I've been working with on Vivian and the whole backstory stuff has been... the only thing I actually haven't really decided is if I'm having her go in England or France. I'm not sure if I should have her start in one of those two. Doesn't matter too much which. She'll eventually travel to England. She's part of the lower noble caste for her mortal life. She's been raised really, really spoiled in a lot of ways.
Okay.
She was a very sweet child, but, well, for a long time people were worried about how she would look as she grew up. They were worried about her marriage, you know, her possible marriage possibilities.
Uh-huh.
Which is why, aka my excuse for having an appearance of one that is raised with experience later.
Okay.
And as she was growing up, it was found that despite not, you know, being the prettiest child ever, she had something about her. She could, you know, convince people just with her oh so sweet voice. Just let her get the extra sweets. Just let her stay in bed a little while longer.
So, what I'm hearing is you were a fat little piggy.
She was definitely a fat little piggy.
Okay, good
Who
thing you.
definitely hid from, like, trying to go into the school classrooms, things like that. Was definitely more interested in just whatever was basically suited her fancy.
Oh, you assume you had classrooms? No, you had one priest as a tutor, probably.
You know what I mean. Usually they had some kind of room that was focused in. She tried to avoid it most of the time.
Uh huh. Okay. You should, if possible, be using your backstory handout to just make notes of the facts we're establishing about your character as best you can. So we have that written down somewhere.
Is that the mysterious note?
Yes.
Oh,
one of
that's
those-
what that is. Okay. Okay. I have been wondering for so long what this mysterious note was about in my stuff that I can edit.
Okay. So that was essentially her mortal life. That's one of the
Yes.
important parts covered. Uh,
Mhm.
so next would be how she ended up becoming a vampire.
Yes, one day, as things were going along, uh, one of those people that, try and ask for money and stuff on the streets was just pounding away at well, it wasn't really a small house, but, not one of the bigger noble houses.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Like a country estate, couple of villages nearby.
basically.
Okay.
Yeah, totally. There was a man just near the middle of the night, slamming on the door. He requested from, the maids and stuff to try and see if he could sleep in, maybe even in the barn or anything. That'd be fine. But he needed somewhere that apparently wouldn't need sunlight. He had a rare skin condition or something.
You know, that sounds like witch to me.
Well, it sounded like that to the maids and stuff too, but when the little mistress came downstairs, she just begged them to let him stay for the day. It wouldn't be too big of a deal. She'd make sure to feed him.
Where were your parents while you were taking up with strange hobos?
Well, you see, they most unfortunately had just recently been called over to the primary capital. Apparently some noble or other was holding a big party, and she wasn't quite old enough to go to those yet.
Uh-huh. Sure, honey,
Very
maybe
close.
next
Very
year.
close.
Maybe next year, right?
Yeah. And, well, the Malkavian was so enthralled with this small and wonderful child that decided that they wanted to keep her.
Uh-huh.
And that is how she was turned into a vampire and ended up having to run away from the estate, otherwise being burned at the stake.
This girl child is totally spoiled. Now she sleeps the whole day. We need to do something. Call the priest. Okay. So that's
So
how
yeah,
you became
that's-
a vampire. What did you do after getting turned? Essentially, I want to establish a rough outline till, at the very least, you came to the new world.
Yep, I know. And I have a general outline. This next part is actually probably my foggiest, that, because I have a general idea, but at the same time, I don't have many specifics until the point of how I get to the new world. So, generally, for at least the first quite a while, actually, probably like even 50, maybe a century, she was traveling around with said Malkavian. Initially, started off on pretty bad terms.
Why won't you give me any sweets, you fucking asshole? I'm sick of blood, I'm fucking sick of it!
More of the, you know, being taken away from her family in previous life and all that wonderful things. The Malkavian actually did treat her pretty well, even letting her do quite a few things that you probably wouldn't let a regular child do. Both terms of the word.
Okay! I'm glad we established that. God's fucking damn it, this is getting lewd.
So yeah, she...
on an adult channel.
No, not about lewd. It's about visiting areas that and getting certain knowledge and that kind of things that you probably wouldn't let somebody you were just trying to control get to.
Ah, so letting you off the leash, letting you be a real child.
Basically.
Okay.
But they traveled around for at least the first century or so. And she did end up, if never really liking her sire, she never really ended up hating him or anything.
Mm-hmm.
She did, for the first couple decades, go back to try and see how her family was doing, things like that. Sometimes even possibly helping them from the shadows if something was going wrong. But mainly she was trying to train more of her, some things that would help her both live in the more wider world and just try and tell what was going on a lot of the times. AKA, she's learning a lot of aspects at this point.
Uh-huh. So, essentially making sure that she could survive and be useful to someone other than her sire, if it ever came to that.
Yep.
Okay.
He's probably also the one that eventually teaches her the Pavlovian response thing. Because she'd probably get really curious about that one.
Hmm. I think given how you went to the new world, if you want to keep that bit, you might have met with him later on when he came to visit you and learned it then, after you got
That's
good at
fine.
Dominate, because I think that fits better.
Yeah, that's fine. Just trying to find a good point for that, so...
Hmm.
Doesn't really matter where in some ways.
He would have eventually made the crossing when the new world became... when it became clear that it was more than a passing fad and when he had gotten to miss you.
Okay.
You know.
So yeah, after a century or so of, you know, traveling with her sire, they did more or less part ways from each other from this point on.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't have any particular interests in joining the Jyhad or anything like that. She mostly ended up wandering around, just helping wherever people basically needed some kind of help. Didn't really discriminate whether it was for the mortals or for the vampires.
Okay.
That's what she mostly ended up doing for quite a while until this rumors of a new world was coming up. And with it being a new place, she didn't particularly think about it initially. But on one of the trips going between, you know, Europe and France, well, pirates ended up attacking the ship.
Mm-hmm. Well, Europe and France doesn't really work. You're probably better off with England, because that's more likely to have extensive shipping travel.
Oops, you're right. England. Blah, 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 blah. You knew what I meant. It's, yeah.
Europe and France. The rest of the continent is isolated today.
Right. Well, in her trips going, from the sea lanes across Europe, eventually one day pirates attacked. Uh, they ended up, as they usually didn't do. They didn't kill everybody, but they did take some hostages, and they did take a lot of the food and stuff, possibly ending up in a lot of those people's deaths. She ended up being taken by the pirates onto their own ship.
Uh-huh. Right. And this is where we get to the point where the story gets dark.
Yeah, definitely. So, as this is olden times, she is technically at almost marriageable age, and definitely consort age.
Yes, exactly.
And, well, at this point she had gotten her appearance into a lot better of a shape. So, she looked pretty cute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say that you had, with the aid of a growth spurt or something, managed to get rid of most of the pigginess, and then the blood just perfecting you over time managed to get rid of the rest.
Yeah. Personally. Yeah, so she was taking in, and when they realized a couple of weird things about her, not really staying too long in day, and she can't really actually go into the light, otherwise it actually starts to apparently hurt her a lot.
Yeah.
They ended up taking pretty decent care of her in most ways.
I mean, they
and
probably...
after a little while... Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, they probably would have noticed that essentially indirect sunlight. Oh, hey, why is her face turning? Is that smoke? You know?
Yeah. So initially she very much hated what was going on. But she and the pirates did end up talking to each other a lot. Like, a lot.
Wow, you're older than my grandma.
She didn't particularly reveal that unless it was much further on.
I mean, eventually they would have noticed, like, over an extended period, it's extremely difficult, I would say, to keep that you're not exactly as young as you appear secret.
Totally. But, so they did, so besides the first, week or two of, we'll just call that the dark times, they actually ended up getting along pretty well. She ended up, forgiving them as she learned their situations. Most of them were former Navy, actually, and had been abandoned by the country. They weren't willing to try and pay them back when they came back, and they stole a ship, most of them. Some of them were also regular thieves and such.
Spanish Armada. When was that smashed?
Oh my fucking god, that's ancient history.
1588. That could have been a ship that essentially went deserter after the defeat of the Spanish Armada.
Makes sense.
So that would have been 1588. And sometime soon after that you would have headed for the New World. Within a couple of years. So around 1600 is when you would have arrived in Americas.
Yay! So yeah, basically, she learned dominate over the time on the board the ship, particularly to stop the initial stuff that was going on, and yeah, she didn't like that at all. And for a while, she had very, very bad thoughts about them.
Yeah, I would say that your sire probably had started to teach you the basics, and given how you had acted previously, you had more focused on the aspects, and you didn't really have especially with your spoiled nature, the motivation to really, go for dominate properly. You didn't really care.
Totally.
So yeah, that lines up nicely. Make a note of the approximate date, because that will determine at what point you could have potentially met the others later on.
Alright, so it was 15 what?
Like around
late
16...
1500s?
Like 1600s. The start of 1600s probably when you went over.
It's arrival. Alright.
So yeah, that essentially gives us a timeline for matching you with other players, more or less.
Yep.
And
Yes, she'd eventually convinced the pirates that, well, they've probably been causing a lot more death and destruction than even they would be really comfortable with. Maybe taking up a new life in this place that is apparently called the New World? There's supposed to be a very nice place over there.
yeah,
I'm letting you decide exactly where they land over there. It doesn't matter too much.
it probably would have been probably the Caribbean, because there were lawless ports there, and they were ex-Spanish Navy, so they probably would have... South America and the Caribbean would have been where they were most likely to have essentially operated.
Alright, so, yeah. She eventually convinces them to actually become pilgrims. To try and take up a new life in a new land.
Okay. Also, note down that you were embraced sometime around the turn of 1500s, and that you are mostly in France and England. Again, for potential meetings with other people. Because if they were operating in the same courts, you might have run into someone earlier.
Alright.
Because, yeah, backstory spanning centuries with multiple players.
So, for at least the first decade or so, she, basically formed something of a herd with them, where she's, semi-openly supernatural, but hasn't ever particularly revealed what she is. But they all really like her, and she seems like a really good gal.
Would you ever have considered turning any of them?
Not without particularly good reason. But, well, good reason for her is, like, they just got slammed into with a tree and have a giant hole in their stomach, so... possibly.
Okay, then, roll me a luck die. The result of this will potentially determine whether you have an, essentially, ally Malkavian somewhere from one of your pirate dudes. Why 1d100, 1d10? High is good.
Oh, whoops. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they did eventually die of old age and such, but you were never on the spot when one of them had a horrible accident, so it never really came up.
Okay.
Alright.
Besides that, she proceeded to try and... Once she realized how horrible it is for people to try and survive here for a while, she went around and tried to start helping other villages and stuff with whatever she could.
Mm-hmm.
Generally with some kind of escort, bringing her over, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, and I assume that you essentially tried to be helpful and friendly as your general way of acting in the New World, as well.
Yes.
Okay.
She never particularly cared about sex or anything either, so it's totally possible she's ended up talking to some Sabbat and stuff along the way.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's mostly what I have in my thought process. There's a couple centuries still here to, go over, but that's her basic modus operandi. So
the specifics of the centuries in the New World and how you position yourselves are gonna be something we're gonna handle in the second prep thing, when we mostly discuss how you've interacted with each other and what your collective, stories as a group. This is mostly about basic character creation and your, individual backstories. So
Then I feel I've gotten that part down.
yeah.
So
How do you wish to proceed, guys? Do we want to go through everyone's backstories and then discuss actual dots, or do we want to go on to dots for Vivian right away?
Dots for VTM.
Yeah,
I agree
I'd say
with
that
that.
before we lose track.
Okay, so you know how we're gonna do this? We're actually gonna use your actually no, we're gonna delete this, and I'm gonna duplicate your sheet. The copy is gonna be, well, you're essentially gonna have a rough draft and the actual sheet, and you're gonna use that as a guideline and take us through the building process so we're sure the math lines up, etc., etc. You know?
okay. Yep.
So just gonna clear out everything on the duplicate one.
Oh, I never switched the clairvoyance thing. I'll just switch that on here real quick.
Why switch clairvoyance? We decided that clairvoyance was better
Switch
for you.
to clairvoyance.
Ah,
It's still telepathic communication. So just did that on the copy so that everyone can see that one. Alright.
Are you using Dominate as a essentially in-clan discipline for yourself, or
Yes.
are... Ah, so you wanted to be a Dominate Malk.
Yeah, as I thought about it, I really came to the conclusion that the most she'll ever really even want dementation would be just a 3. She would never want to go any higher than that. Dominate, I can think of her going higher than that, at the very least. That was my thought process on which clan for her to be.
Okay, that
Part of the
means that we need to adjust the backstory slightly, because you would have had the one-step Dominate pretty early on.
Oh, yeah, that's
Like,
a good point. She
that's
actually, so basically, the
instinctive.
dark times never actually happened, but they totally, they definitely gave that impression to her of really wanting to go for it. But she was able to stop them.
Not necessarily, actually, because you are very wimpy physically, and eventually they would have been able to starve you enough of blood to just be able to gag you.
Ah, good point.
So, yeah, it was a bit more violent, actually, than your original plan.
Ah, yay! The dark times are worse.
But, yeah. So, use the copy to just take us through the creation process, starting with attributes.
Alright, so attributes, primary is social, just going and putting 5 dots into that. She has, you know, she's definitely of the higher generation.
Mm-hmm. Lots of charisma. Apparently
The last of it's in the manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
Perception was also put on to 6.
Should I let the others see the sheet as we are working through this together, or...
There's no problem. Yeah, go ahead. No problem with it.
Okay, then I will give you all edit rights temporarily for us going through this, so you can keep track as Epic is adding in dots. Don't poke at it.
Alright, so didn't put anything initially into intelligence or wits. Those will be raised with experience in a little while.
I suppose that makes sense given how naive you were about letting hobos into your home.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
So
She needed to be taught about the world first. She was super pampered in life, and the best way to represent that is in dexterity. So just 4 points in dexterity.
Noodle
She can't
arms.
raise. Yeah, she can't even raise it beyond stamina or strength beyond 2 anyway. So.
She can with blood buffs, but yes.
Yeah, you know what I mean. She can't do it with experience or anything, so fuck that.
Yeah, at 3, not at 4. Or sorry, at 4, not at 5. You can open the copy of Vivian Greyjackler and see this as we are proceeding.
No, I'm talking. I was thinking. He can raise it with experience above 2 after character creation.
I'm pretty sure it stated I can't ever raise it beyond 2.
Yeah, even with a child, you read the thing again. I think.
Yes, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So, yeah, your dexterity should be at 4 total, because you only get 3 in your last.
Oops, misclicked. There we go.
Yeah. Okay. Then going through talents, skills, etc.
Talents, she's going to be putting 13 into there. She's just going to go, oh, social stuff. We want to do all social stuff.
The second subterfuge, I think, is the actual one, and the first one is streetwise.
Oh, whoops. I think they still haven't fixed that, eh?
As if.
Well, whatever. Except intimidate. She's not going to do much on intimidating. Expression. She avoided her lessons and everything on talking super proper. She was just convincing. Being empathy. So we're at 9 right now.
I think it makes more sense that your leadership would be lower originally, unless you really needed to be that high, because she was more focused on perception early on.
Actually, go open the other sheet. See about comparing and contrasting. Let's see. Expression. I do have 3 in leadership for no apparent real reason. I don't.
Yeah, you could have developed that while chilling with your pirates to that level, learning how to, make that group orbit you, but that's a bit later on.
No problem. Yeah. Let's see. That actually helps me in a little bit because I actually wanted to do some other stuff too. So yay. Let's see. Going over to the alertness and such. So she had a pretty high alertness. So she was just good at telling when things were going on generally. If not understanding them, telling when they were going on.
And that leaves you with a total of 3 more dots in primary abilities. So.
Let's see about putting some stuff in, like, expression, maybe a dot in intimidate.
If you don't give me those sweets, I will tell father!
That's why it's only 1. And she has a dot in awareness. Alright.
Okay, then secondary.
Secondary is going to be knowledges. And in this, she just ended up with a variety of knowledge from the people she's talked to in general. This is why she only has 1 dot in everything except science. I think I counted that right? I think there's 9 in total.
Yes, there should be. Not sure if that would have been something you would have picked early on, though, which is...
It was, to be fair, this is because of character creation and stuff. This is after she gained eidetic memory, particularly, was my justification for this one. As she's just had tons of conversations ever since then.
Yeah.
So.
I'd say that works then, because people certainly try to teach you a whole lot. You never paid any attention, and we can say that the eidetic memory is like a mutation, because you're like, I really don't want to study. The blood was like, okay, I'll make it easy for you.
My justification, I'll just, should I reveal because it is part of my backstory, should I reveal the Malkavian madness I have?
Yes, you can, certainly, if you wish.
Well, because I do have a reason for the eidetic memory, particularly.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that, well, you see, she kind of has synesthesia, which means that all of her senses kind of flip-flopped on her when she was changed. It wasn't necessarily just a matter of, kind of needing to stay with her sire. She needed to stay with her sire for a couple decades just to make sure that she even understood what was going around her.
Uh-huh. So,
And
if something feels brown, the normies think it means soft, okay?
Yes, exactly. Eventually, her eidetic memory actually was formed in making these connections from what she previously knew to what she knows now. It wasn't something she had in her mortal life. That was something she developed in response to gaining the synesthesia madness.
I mean, yeah, that's... So yeah, like I said, part of your initial mutations, however long those took to stabilize.
Yeah.
Okay. And in your skills, what perchance do you want there?
In skills, well, there's not too much she would find super useful. She basically has 3 in etiquette, 1 in performance, and 1 in animal ken.
Okay. That works perfectly. Certainly etiquette you would have... like, as soon as you started remembering things properly, you would have gotten a fuck ton of etiquette lessons. The other stuff, a lot of it is having overheard stuff, but etiquette would have been your primary focus as a noble girl child.
Yep. She never particularly learned any kind of stealth or survival skills growing up, so yeah. That was the only things there.
And that takes us to freebies, and you may add your first levels of disciplines as well.
6 points in empathy. 6 points in subterfuge.
But I didn't get my sweets for today yet. The maid forgot.
That's right.
Jesus Christ, the mind wipe.
3 points in influence. That's just gonna come up later, though.
If you
Basically,
want
I
to...
have 3 points floating, if you want to say that for now.
Yeah,
But...
you can reserve some freebies for adding backgrounds after we're done assigning experience.
Floating points. There we go. I have 3 floating points. So the rest of this is just as time is going by. She particularly focused on Auspex for a long time, getting it to max out. Auspex! 75 XP into Auspex!
Okay. That takes it to 6.
Yep. After the Auspex, I figure she learns Obfuscate at just some point. It's only 5 XP to get to level 2.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more than the baseline.
We can say that up until getting to the new world, that's about 100 XP worth of experiencing, because vampires learn faster early on.
Yep, and I figure her sire might have taught her dementation. Or maybe another Malkavian. I figure my sire at the initial point.
He might have insisted that you learn that in case you ever need to pass for a normal Malk, on at least the basic level when he came over or something. But you can certainly take that later on if you want. It doesn't matter either way.
Yeah, it doesn't matter particularly. Then during the whole ship excursion, which is, the next century, she brought up her dominate skills after initially still having it at 1. Put 15 XP into that to get it to level 3.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, besides that,
Given that you have been bouncing around other courts, I expect you would be spending some more into some of the other social stuff in theory.
yeah, let's see. This is also where her appearance gets upped to 12 XP.
Okay. Just keep noting it down. I trust your math as long as you're, doing it properly as we go,
Yep. Actually, because of the changes we did at the initial part with the leadership, I now have 6 XP and alertness that I don't need. Yeah, let me change that.
Just keep noting these, just keep your totals noted as you spend it here, and that should be fine. You can alter the notes whenever.
Yeah, let me just erase that real quick. No one else is coming in here and saying if I'm doing decent or not, though. What am I supposed to do with my life?
No, you're doing just great.
You are showing them how they're supposed to not fuck this up. That's why I made you go first.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Let's do that as a good job. So we minus that. I now have that much. Huzzah! Let's see. Went over dominate, obfuscate, aspects, dementation.
Give me a second. Let's see. Oh, god, fucking damn it. Okay, so let's go over the total. 75 in aspects, 15 in dominate, total of 90, 95 with obfuscate, another 17, so 112 total with disciplines, another 12 for appearance 3, that's 124 so far.
Yep. And then manipulation is going to be raised here quite a bit because she's learned she needs to really, actually talk to people into getting them to do things that they don't agree to as well.
Yeah. You probably would have started to raise some of your intelligence and wits along the way as well.
Okay, that's 4 XP and 12 XP respectively, for 2 intelligence and 3 wits.
Okay. So another 16, that's 140, then manipulation.
Yep. So manipulation, 28 XP.
Okay.
To get it up to 5.
So that's 168. And I think you need the rest for combo powers. You have...
Not all of it. I just need 12 for the Malkov's Pavlovian response.
Wait, what did I say? 168? Damn it, brain! I hope you're writing this down for you somewhere.
Or you have a calculator.
Are you using a calculator on your end? I'm gonna open one on my end.
I'm now opening mine. I did use a calculator when I calculated all this initially out.
Yeah, I did that as well with my character. It's too hard.
Well, let's see. The Pavlovian response is 12. Dominate is 15. Obfuscate is 5. Auspex is 75. Mentation is 17. Intelligence and wits, 4 and 12 respectively, so 16.
With Pavlovian response, it takes you up to 180, I think.
Appearance is 12. Manipulation is 28. And we are at 180 right now, yes.
Yeah. So, it would probably make sense to up some of your other social talents.
Yep.
And maybe get another dot of etiquette.
Currently, I have listed of getting 1 more dot in expression for 2 XP. So 182 is the total right now.
Okay.
That is actually as far as my character goes at the current moment, as far as what I have noted.
Yeah, so at this point it's more a question of rounding everything out. Making sure it all makes sense. Picking up any odds and ends that you would have run into. I think a second dot of politics makes sense because you are a mind reader and you have been bouncing around a lot of places, talking to people, interacting with Vamp Society.
One more thing. 3 more XP for willpower, just to get her willpower up to something.
Okay.
So that should be 185 in total.
Okay. Okay. I don't know. Does she care about etiquette, or does she just coast on what she learned as a child?
She's coasting on what she learned as a child, mostly. She hasn't been into, she hasn't, you know, been raising in the Camarilla or anything to stay around particularly noble people.
Yeah.
She just usually does it to get into, like, you know, oh, hello, nice to meet you, lord of this county, state, whatever.
Uh-huh. No, that makes perfect sense. If you were at like 1 or 2, I might have suggested raising it by 1 point just through sheer experience, but you don't need to. That certainly doesn't make sense. I would suggest raising leadership by at least 1 point, potentially 2, because you did have that whole pirate crew that you essentially spent a couple of decades just bending to your will, and that would have taught you that pretty good. So
I'll go ahead and put that up by good up to like 3 in that case. Might as well.
Yep,
So
also helps with dominate, so that's 191 by my count. If you take
that should be 6, and that will be 191. Yep. Still have 9 left. I'm alright with where it is, if that's where we want to put it. Unless anyone else has something they want me to add to it.
I would say another dot of... Make sure to actually add your third dot of leadership there. One more dot of politics probably makes sense.
Sure.
Potentially a second dot of some other knowledges based on what kind of people you have been hanging around, like academics, occult. Maybe
By the
to
way,
level 2 make sense.
Real quick, what is the date we're starting in?
1957, right after the Sabbat Civil War, one of the big ones, the last big one.
Yeah. Big question. Why does he have computer?
Oh, that is an excellent point.
Don't have computer yet.
Yeah.
Let's put that into science in that case.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That makes no sense. Why not make no sense?
Okay, so you had 191 after raising leadership, 193 after raising politics, if you're okay with doing that.
Yep.
So that leaves you with 7 points.
You need to actually increase politics too.
Yeah.
I'm mostly paying attention to the math down here rather than the actual points at this point.
Uh-huh.
So yeah.
I think you could raise your stealth to 1, because that probably has come up as an oh shit thing like once or twice.
Sure.
And then you have enough to raise your occult and academics to 2, or your investigation to 2, if you don't like academics or occult for whatever reason.
He has a willpower of 3? That seems a bit strange for an elder.
He spent it up to 4, that should be raised to 4.
Oh. I mean, that's way more... That's way better, but still a bit...
He
He hasn't
so
had a
low.
particularly...
Yeah, that... Not much point. She is so likable and so low gen that it doesn't often come up.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Willpower raises
Only-
as it is tested.
She's generally just not been tested in that kind of way almost ever.
Yeah.
So it's raised just kind of naturally, but it's not really any other thing for it, so...
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so 193.
196 right now.
With...
I raised stealth. Raised stealth by 1.
Yeah, so that gives you 4 points left. You could either raise politics to 4, or given that you are poking around in things, a dot of investigation, like either occult or academics, makes sense too. It's up to you.
Let's put in academics and occult real quick.
Not investigation. Focus more on the talkie.
We are talkie.
Okay. That works then. And
no.
you are at 200. Okay.
Yep.
And that's the first hour, just as we are happily finishing this. Which leaves us, let's just wrap up your backgrounds. You have 10 for free, and you have 1 free dot of status just for age. So...
Okay. Let me erase what I currently have here real quick. So 1 dot of status for free. I put 5 into generation. Put 3 more into status to be pretty high.
Yep.
Wow, that leaves me actually quite a bit.
You have 2 more and 3 floating points from freebies.
So I'll just say the base stuff will be 1 in influence, 1 in contacts, and then I'll put influence up to 4 as well.
Okay. So, essentially, able to know who to go to and just, you know.
Hello, sir. I've heard recently that the polls aren't going so well. So what if you, put it this way?
Yeah, you would be able to, with your skills, certainly find things out and make things happen. Well...
Someone needs to try and watch the masquerade here. I have a feeling that it's going to be trying to break fairly often.
Currently, it's broken. You need to repair it. The Sabbat had a civil war in this town.
Yay!
Yay.
In terms of extra dots, generally speaking, you are too nice, so people won't necessarily be very willing to ally with you, but I'll give you 1 point of extra allies and 2 points of extra contacts in the vamp world. Just as a general thing, as you know people, you have been around and you know people in other cities and etc. So you will have a pipeline to politics in this continent, essentially.
Yep. I will say, I love Malkov's Pavlovian response. I love the things this will let me do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you gotta have something crazy, considering I already have, like, bullshit spats.
Okay, so I think make sure to note down the extra stuff I'm giving you for your background. So
SD gifts.
yes, that's 2 extra contacts and 1 extra dot of allies. So someone old and powerful likes you, and you might be able to get a neonate or 2 to aid you. You wouldn't have had much special contact with your clan, so it's not gonna be like the network liking you or Malk time or stuff like that.
Yep. I know.
Which is a thing. And Demi.
Well, then we fucked off.
What the fuck is going on with him?
Storm.
Massive fucking storm.
Oh. So they're shooting the sky. How typical of a
Yes.
fucking Serb.
Yeah, but he's not trying to work this time. Not so bad at this.
Alright, well, yeah. I suppose that's a decent example of how to do it.
Yeah. There it is, and we can take a quick break and split the recording here.